electrification. And I think, you know, in the last couple of years, there's really been a shift in this community from the mindset of just energy efficiency to really how do we get to zero emissions and how do we use fuel switching to get there a lot faster than, you know, I think most of us had our heads wrapped around this in the past, and the need to make that switch. A lot of work has gone into sort of mapping out the energy footprint, and we know that really our light duty vehicles plus our home office and building infrastructure is about 42% of the greenhouse gas footprint between those two things. So it's a much quicker way, I think, to reduce emissions than just the approach of changing our generation out from traditional thermal generation to renewables. And it's been an opportunity, I think, as I've engaged more and more groups. It's really empowering for people to realize that they have so much more control over their own emissions rather than just dealing with the fact that maybe their state legislator or their governor or some other elected official or even corporation is responsible for those emissions. It really allows people the concept of electrifying everything, of having a zero emission home, really gives people a sense of empowerment to take over this portion of their lives and do something meaningful and real around our climate challenges. So in the course of just a year, you know, we've really gone from initial discussions to forming an electrification caucus in both the House and Senate. Paul Tonko, who I served with in the House of Representatives, and who is also a mechanical engineer. I think he's about the only other one, with the exception of our new senator from California, who's also got an ME degree, really took the reins in the House, along with Kathy Castor of Florida. And then we've got a whole group of people now in the Senate, including Tina Smith of Minnesota, who are actively looking for ways to promote electrification, both internally to the government and then also through our Zero Emissions Homes Act that is largely a rebate program, so that when people, you know, when that furnace dies or your hot water heater dies, you have the ability at point of sale to make the right decision and to start swapping out all of this infrastructure as things age out. We really need to be replacing all of this with zero emissions infrastructure, hot water heaters, furnaces, heating and cooling systems, you know, really across the board, even stoves with induction. So I think we've gone a long way in a short period of time. If we can get some portion of the Build Back Better bill through the Senate, it's probably going to be the energy and climate provisions, and we have those rebates baked into that at this point. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to really add to what all of you are doing by putting these rebates out there in a way that serves your individual municipalities and organizations' constituents to be able to make the right decision every time they swap out old infrastructure for new. And so that's what we've kind of been working on for the last year. I'd love to hear what you're all doing. And then I'd love to brainstorm around how we can sort of find ways to streamline and standardize your efforts around the state so that we can give people sort of a toolbox that they can run with to accelerate these efforts no matter where they are in the state.
Great, thank you very much, Senator. Beth, you want to introduce our presenters?
Certainly, I now can unmute. I'd like to start with Albuquerque, please. And Kelsey Rader, if you would start.
All right. Good afternoon, Senator. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing some of the exciting things that are going on in your shop. Over here in Albuquerque, we're very excited about trying to make serious efforts to electrify both the transportation sector as well as the building sector as well. In terms of the transportation sector, we have in the last few years passed a zero emissions first policy at the city of Albuquerque, meaning that anytime that we've got to replace one of our retiring vehicles, we're prioritizing replacement with EVs and hybrids. We've also added significantly to the infrastructure, the EV charging infrastructure throughout the city. We've added 20 new EV stations with over 30 ports. And we've also brought on the city's first electric bus, and we're very excited to see some more electrification efforts happen throughout our heavy duty transit sector. In terms of the building sector, we're very excited that we're wrapping up level 3 energy audits across 2 million square feet of city facilities, and we're preparing to use those findings to conduct an energy savings performance contract, which can help give us a better indication of where we can start potentially electrifying some of our own city facilities as well.
Great. Kelsey, was that a Proterra bus that you guys started with?
Yes, Senator, that's correct.
Great. Super. I know people got the wrong, that BYD was not a great out of the gate choice, I think, for the city under the previous administration. So getting those American-made electric buses out there and getting people exposed to them, I think is super helpful. And Proterra's got a great reputation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator. And if you're ever down, we'd love to take you on a ride.
Can I, as people present, can I ask a couple of questions at the end of each one? So that'll help us sort of figure out where to focus. Sure. I know that the city contributed $100,000 to the community energy efficiency project. I got to tour some of that over in my old city council district back when the Secretary of Energy was in town. How are those efforts going? And who are you partnering with for those kinds of community efforts?
Excellent question, Senator. So we are in the process of wrapping up some of the final upgrades. Of course, supply chain issues and workforce shortages have impacted us all. So we're a little bit later than we'd like to be, but we're thankfully wrapping that up here this spring with our first 10 households that we've been able to work with. And we're excited to see, to be able to potentially renew that contract in the coming year. And Family and Community Services has received some federal funding. And so they have released a RFP for about $3.5 million to expand out that work even further. And we've emphasized and prioritized electrification and decarbonization as a major point of that effort.
Fantastic. That's great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There's one more, Kelsey, that you are sharing with Santa Fe County, and I noticed Joseph Montoya is here for the county's housing authority. DOE awarded Senator money to a nonprofit that's going to have sites around the country, and 2 of them will be here in New Mexico, Santa Fe County's housing authority and Albuquerque's housing authority, that will get EV charging stations and electric vehicles for their staff and clients. So it's going to be one to watch and see if that can be replicated throughout the state.
And Ken, did you say that was in concert with a nonprofit contractor, or?
Yeah, it's a group called Fourth Mobility out of Oregon.
Okay, great.
They got the grant. There were like 22 applications. This is one of 4 that got awarded. So we're really happy that 2 of our members have been chosen.
Fantastic.
Beth, back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so next, Los Alamos County and Councilor Wrighty.
Yeah, thanks for the invite and setting this up. And so I think in terms of specifically electrification of vehicles in the county, I think about one of the big things is that we have 2 buses that are, I think, still waiting to be implemented. They're imminently, so there are 2 of the Proterra buses were purchased for the Atomic City transit system. So we're looking forward to those actually coming online. And I think they're just more complications with the topography we have here than some other places, and charging and, time of use is similar, probably some other places, the system is up and down in terms of use. A bigger thing, obviously, is use post-pandemic, which we're not post-pandemic yet, but the use, I can report, I'm glad to say their use of the transit system has increased, not to 2019 levels, but it's gone back up. So I think that's a good sign, just kind of more generally. And we do have, I think, about 4 EV charging stations. They're just, then we're going to get, I think, another 3 from the VW settlement. And so that'll be good. I mean, the other thing that we're doing more generally is that we had, based on some citizen interest, there was a resiliency energy sustainability task force created. And this task force is going to make recommendations for reducing greenhouse gas emissions for the county plus the community. We're kind of in discussions with the triad because of the the whole government effort now for combating climate change. So we're very hopeful about that effort and hope to see some more specifics. I'll tell you that the one new affordable housing project in Los Alamos is all electric. So that's nice to see. The bad news, of course, is that our electric generation is 80% not renewable currently. And that's, we have a big stake, in a couple of coal plants. But one of them will be changing over soon. So we'll be getting back down to 60%, which is the national average. So it's been interesting getting a lot of citizen input on this. And the other thing is we do have the Department of Public Utilities, our county-owned utility, has conservation goals. So they're planning on for generation to be carbon neutral by 2040. And they had a goal for eliminating natural gas, reducing natural gas, I think, in 10 years and eliminating entirely by 2070, which is a far way out. So I'm looking forward to us revisiting some of these goals and having some other measures, and just whatever synergies we can have within the state would be great. And purchasing power, I think that's another thing that we've talked about. Getting some better pricing agreements on some of these items. So.
Okay. Any questions for Randy?
I don't think I have any questions for Randy. So whoever's next, let's just keep going.
Okay. I'm going to jump to Santa Fe City with Neil Denton presenting, and of course, our mayor, if you care to add anything, please do.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Senator. Happy to talk to you about our plans for building electrification and electric vehicles, but I would be remiss if I don't give our distinguished mayor an opportunity to say a few words first, should you wish to, Mayor Weber.
I appreciate it, Neil, but you have the talking stick.
Right, sounds good. So our guiding light as it relates to building electrification started in 2006 when the governing body here opted into the Architecture 2030 Challenge, which set a trajectory for us to move towards net zero buildings by 2030 with our building codes. We currently have in place what we call our green building code related to single family residential with a home energy rating score requirement of 60. 100% would be doing nothing. So it's basically a 40% improvement in energy efficiency. As we continue to ratchet that down 5 points at a time, the builders, architects, et cetera, will have no choice but to eliminate the use of gas in those buildings as we move towards net zero. We are currently in the process of expanding that building code to multifamily, bringing that to our governing body within the next couple months, at which time we'll be reducing that score by 5 points, after which we'll be on a trajectory within the coming years to continue lowering that score and expanding it to other building types. With commercial buildings, we're going to start with building performance disclosure. For those of us who work in the field, that's pretty typical that's a first step where basically buildings have to make public, whether it's posting on the door, their website, their building performance with an energy rating index. And then we'll impose some requirements on existing buildings to improve that score for us to ultimately move towards our goal of carbon neutrality by 2040, which was set by the governing body in 2018. So that's for the community. As it relates to our buildings, we're currently investing $17 million in renewables and energy efficiency upgrades after conducting an investment grade audit. resulting in a whole slew of recommendations for improvements. And that does include some electric vehicle charging stations, one at a library, one at the police station. We're installing electric vehicle charging stations at our airport. And we also received some Volkswagen funds via the state for electric vehicle charging stations at 3 of our public parking garages. A couple years back, we were certified as a LEED Gold City. They have a LEED for Cities program. We're the second in the world actually to achieve that rating under the newest rating system. Orlando beat us to it, unfortunately, but happy to be the second to get LEED Gold. And I'm pointing that out because we're using that as a framework moving towards recertification in 2025, where one credit we'll receive is that 2% of public parking spaces are served with electric vehicle charging stations. So that's the goal we're using to guide our work related to public electric vehicle charging stations. And one of the best ways to do that is with building codes. Whenever pavement is going down in parking areas, it's substantially cheaper to put in the conduit to make the facility electric vehicle, ready for electric vehicle charging stations. So in that expansion of our building code to multifamily that I mentioned, we do have requirements that new multifamily dwellings will install electric vehicle charging stations. And when existing multifamily dwellings are breaking ground on more than 50% of the pavement, they'll trigger those requirements on the new pavement.
Neil, when you with
yeah.
your multifamily for new construction, are you do the building codes require folks to effectively put in heating and cooling with electric as opposed to gas, or what's the sort of current lay of the land there?
Not at this time. The way we have it with the home energy rating scores, it gives builders, architects the flexibility for how they're going to achieve that, so they can choose to do so with heat pumps or other electric appliances. But really, when we'll see that is as we continue to lower that score, you won't be able to meet the requirement without eliminating gas.
Because I know, one of the potential cost savings there for, especially for new construction, is just not having to pay to extend, gas service to new construction. So if you can just pay for one set of utilities instead of two, it's oftentimes a kind of a sweetener.
Right. Agreed. So then I'll just point out that, I serve on the sustainability committee of the NCRTD, the Blue Bus, and they are buying some electric buses right now, and that will include the route from Santa Fe to Taos will be an electric bus. So that's exciting. And our school district here just got their first electric bus as well, Santa Fe Public Schools. Something kind of exciting related to electrification is right now we're running a pilot solarized program, which is basically helping homeowners negotiate wholesale pricing to lower the cost of solar energy. We'd like to scale up the pilot, and when doing so, I'd really like to include electrification for homeowners who can see no increase of cost of doing so. We've been talking to a company out of New York you might be familiar with called Block Power about potentially partnering with their offerings where they can help people electrify their homes or their businesses for no money up front.
I was emailing with Donnell over the weekend about induction stoves, but they seem to have really done an amazing job at capturing the savings and using that to finance the changes, which is kind of the ideal model here. If you don't have to put money out up front and you can make these changes and finance it with the savings, that's a pretty neat trick.
Yeah, definitely. There's in Ithaca, New York, they're doing that citywide with Block Power. Love to scale that sort of work up here, where we're helping our LMI residents in particular with electrification.
Absolutely.
And, a key part of that is I've been working with Beth and some others here on the call regarding establishing a Santa Fe Clean Energy Fund, which would operate like a green bank and help people with lower interest rates and who may be credit challenged, make sure they can access the benefits of clean energy. And right now that's kind of tied up with some funding in that Build Back Better Act that we're just kind of waiting to see if it's going to make it through. the Renewables Accelerator funding in that act.
Right. Yeah, that would be huge. One of the issues that I think, I'm glad you raised low and moderate income. I think one of the issues that really tends to get a lot of traction, but isn't always where these conversations start, is just how much healthier and more comfortable these all electric conversions are for people when you can get, that old gas combusting water heater out of the home. When we have way too many houses that probably aren't code compliant, but we've got a lot of gas stoves in this state that don't even have functional hoods. And all of that just has enormous impacts on people's health. So I think that's one of the places where we can do a lot more to sell the benefits of all of this, that this isn't just a climate solution. It's also it's a health and equity issue. And that seems to really gain traction in a number of communities.
Definitely good points. The indoor air quality issue as well.
Right. Okay, thank you. Let's go to the south, Las Cruces, with Jenny Hernandez, please.
Hi, Senator Heinrich. Thanks for making time for us this afternoon. And you were recently here a few months ago, so it's nice to give you an update on what we presented initially, because some of those things were twinkles in the sky, and now they've come to fruition a little bit. So I'll start with our beneficial electrification efforts. We, in December, recently passed the Sustainable and Beneficial Electrification for new construction in municipal-owned buildings. And so that resolution just means that moving forward, all new construction that is owned by the city has to be all electric. So we're not putting any more gas infrastructure in those. And that kind of ties into what we're currently working on in terms of, we hope to take this citywide to be a city ordinance that's electric ready. But in an effort to do both of those things, we are planning a training tentative to be June of this year for beneficial electrification and training. So basically where we help city staff and our developers and our builders really understand how to do this transition effectively while simultaneously building up the workforce, so that when we're ready for this transition, everyone's well equipped and prepared. And tied into that, we are looking into, as Santa Fe mentioned, and the example that Neil gave, similar with Ithaca, to do a program that's specifically focused on low to moderate income and do a retrofit program, basically transitioning them to electrification, but in a holistic approach, right? So including all the weatherization components, so we make sure that we're maximizing the renewable energy that we're putting in, and their new electrification components to it. And it's exciting. We just had our first meeting today with the company that's doing phase 1 with us, our consultant. And so we're super excited about that. And then lastly, in electrification, we hope to take that citywide ordinance out in August of 2022. In terms of our our EV stuff, our electric vehicles, we have a resolution that 50% of our municipal-owned fleet will be EVs by 2030. And I just got off the phone giving them, talking with our fleet about giving us an update. And they've got most of the meters on their fleet to kind of track, and it gives them data on what cars which ones are the best to convert at this point and things of that nature. So we're working on that. And we have installed 16 chargers and 2 public chargers this past year and in 2021. And then we are working with our software program, Easy EV, to give us that data that we need and to specify where we can put in these chargers And like our other New Mexico cities, we've also got 5 electric transit buses, and we're currently building the new transit center, which will equip all of those charging stations, but also be able to service them. And then we are looking to, in the next future couple years here, to invest in a low-income EV car sharing program. So couple that with our LMI project for electrification to kind of round it all out.
That's great. Jenny, which buses did you end up going with in Las Cruces?
I believe that we also went with the ones that Albuquerque chose because we piggybacked off of them.
Okay, the Proterra buses?
Yeah, the Proterra.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, one of the things I'm hoping to do is get more school districts thinking about this as Bluebird and some of the other manufacturers shift over as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. We definitely should consider that as well, moving towards more school districts. So we might have to reach out to Neil and talk to him about that.
Great.
Okay.
Good
Great.
stuff.
Great. And in keeping with the roundup comments, which Commissioner Hansen did in Heinrich this morning, I'd like to ask Santa Fe County, Commissioner Hansen and Jacqueline Beam to speak.
Good afternoon, Senator. Good to see you always. I want to just also mention that Joseph Montoya is our Community Development Director, and he's on the call along with I have my entire sustainability team here. The county has focused upon reducing their emissions footprint for some time. We also have a slideshow to share with you. I believe Jacqueline is going to bring that up. And then we will share it with you also, because we are very proud that on Tuesday we passed the greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan. This is considered to be a landmark step for the county. And what this has done, next slide, Jacqueline, is that we have approved many policies for leading by example. We're committed to the Paris Agreement of net zero gas emissions by 2050. We joined the Race to Zero pledge with IGLE. We have done a number of things, but approving this greenhouse gas emission plan is really important. It's home by staff. The plan is now put into formal action. The greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan has several projects that are already part of the first phase. We have joined the Solar Direct program along with Albuquerque and the Hickory at the Hickory Nation, and that will provide 50% of the electricity for all of the electricity that we purchase from P&M. So that is a really important part of our project. We have 19 facilities with solar and are planning 5 more this year. The plan, greenhouse gas reduction emissions, spans 6 5-year phases and will guide the county towards zero emissions in operations by 2050. Yet more importantly, leads the way for the county to take the next step in drafting the countywide comprehensive climate action plan. Referenced on page 3. So we are fortunate to have a dedicated team focused upon the concerns of climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, and conservation. Joining me from Santa Fe County is Sustainable Manager Jacqueline Beam, Sustainable Manager and Sustainability Specialist Adeline Murphy, and Caitlin Weber, and Paul Olafson. So I'm turning over to Jacqueline to give you another description, and I will close at the end.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I do want to point and tip my hat to Adeline Murthy. She was the major lifter in all of the data mining for this plan. And a lot of what we are doing in the plan also focuses on the electrification piece. And that is a major part as we prepare to make these transitions. As the commissioner stated, a lot of our projects have been all about preparing. And so we have been dedicated to energy efficiency. We have the greenhouse gas emissions inventory that guided us for the guaranteed utility savings contract. And so we have a swath of buildings right now, 13 buildings that are being looked at for energy efficiency upgrades. And then we will continue with another 20 in the next couple of years. The vision and planning for this, as you can see, we do have 6 phases where we are looking at a baseline based upon 2018 emissions. And every phase, we will be looking at ways to eliminate those greenhouse gas emissions, with electrification being a large part of it. But we're really looking at this as a holistic process. And we're trying to be nimble about how we make these decisions because innovation and technology is changing so quickly. One instance is, we have solar installations, and however, we also have community solar coming up. And so we might be able to just subscribe to community solar. So we're really trying to be flexible and smart in how we go about this. When I look at the emissions from our facilities, it's fairly uniform with the rest of the nation in that we have over 50% of our emissions are from our facilities, followed by fleet and water, wastewater. So when we are doing the math for transitioning our facilities, we are looking at a portfolio that is about 35 million to 40 million. And that is just the major players in our facility portfolio. So even if we spread this over a decade, it's way more than we've looked at for energy efficiency upgrades or solar installations. And so the funds definitely are an important piece that we're trying to find at this moment.
Jacqueline, how are you able to, and maybe there's someone else on the call who might know this as well, but are you able to finance some of that through performance contracts?
Correct.
We are,
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we are, Senator. We have the 13 buildings that are under our performance contract, and those buildings are being offset by the savings.
Okay.
Correct, but Senator, those buildings are not being transitioned to electricity. They are being upgraded. And so those are the areas that we're able to find funding for. It's the heavy lift of transitioning our buildings to electricity is really the place where I see we're running into some challenges.
So your performance contracts are sort of the more traditional efficiency based, but they're not conversion contracts. So you're still fairly dependent on gas infrastructure.
Correct.
Okay.
At this point in time. And of course, our fleet as well is a part of the process. And we do have a fleet policy now that requires all of the gas, I'm sorry, I'm losing my words.
Combustion.
Oh, exactly. Thank you, Senator. Those will be replaced by electric vehicles. However, we also have, I'm dealing with the reality here of we all are of maintenance. And so we have to look at skilling up our workforce to deal with not only the infrastructure maintenance, but also the EVs themselves. And so these are all things that I would like for us to look at a little bit more closely in the reality.
Jacqueline, I've actually found that the maintenance issue is kind of the opposite. The biggest problem with switching out is the fact that there's not a lot to do. So, we have a lot of really high skilled workforce, especially in municipalities that have maintained all these vehicles for a long time. And when you switch out to electric, you're left with like rotating the tires. I mean, the amount I've been driving electric since 2017 in my own home, and I just don't have to do anything anymore. And it's, figuring out how you transition that workforce to other, productive, important work is probably a bigger challenge than the actual maintenance on these electric vehicles, because there's so few moving parts left.
And I completely agree with you, Senator, on that. I think I should have clarified, it's more the EV charging systems that we are challenged with.
Yeah.
And when
That
those
makes sense.
down, it can take months to get them
Mhm.
repaired.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, coming up with solutions around that are things that we're looking at.
Great. Okay.
And so our next steps are really to collaborate across departments and incorporate our economic development in the planning, so that we can look at those skills. And I didn't mention that all of our housing units have been upgraded, also have solar as well. And we are looking at tax credit for net zero construction, and then also rehab and energy efficiency loan program. So those are all things on the horizon that we're excited about.
Is that loan program, is that aimed at Santa Fe County residents being able to access as a way to upgrade?
Correct, and LMI focused.
Great, wonderful.
And so, Senator, I would be remiss, and you can take down the PowerPoint. I would be remiss if I don't ask you for finding federal money for us. This is something that is going to take us a lot of money to convert our buildings. And I'm speaking for all of the coalition members also. We all need the money to do these electrification and move forward. So that is really important. Thank you very much for your time. We're grateful. Santa Fe County is working really hard to meet all of our goals, and along with the coalition, which, I'm honored to be one of the vice chairs of the coalition. And we're all working hard to make the difference that we need to make here. Thank you.
With respect to that, Commissioner, obviously we're trying to get the Green Bank proposal in place so that communities can access those funds as a way to finance these kinds of projects. But what's the lay of the land right now? If you had to sort of lay out the biggest tools that all of you have in your toolbox, what are the main sources, in addition to your own gross receipts or general revenue? What are some of the tools that you can access through the state or federal government or private industry that you rely on the most?
Well, of course, Senator, we rely on bonding. But, I agree with you. A green bank would be a great process, and we have been supporting that. But, like one of the other places we go is to get capital outlay. So if there was more money from the state for them to give us for our electrification needs, that would be a really good thing, especially since we're awash in money at the moment, and transferring some of that money from the gas industry into electrification, I think is a good process. Maybe some of my other fellow members would like to join in as where the money can come from.
Senator, if I may, good to see you, by the way.
Great to see you.
Yeah, how have you been?
Been a long time.
Yeah, you look well. So right now we're actually applying for EDA funds specifically to be able to rehab businesses in Santa Fe, both in the city of Santa Fe and the county of Santa Fe. So that we've joined up with the state of New Mexico, and specifically actually our friends down south at the college. And we are, so we'll be doing assessments of buildings and then putting a loan fund together to be able to provide low interest financing so that business will be able to see that they'll pay less in the loan fund that they will be paying for their utilities costs. So I think that'll be a good way to be able to rehab. Jacqueline mentioned we have funds on the residential side that we're putting together. This is also a great way for us to be able to provide assistance on the commercial side.
Great. No, that's awesome. Make sure, Joseph, that if you want our economic development team, they scrub those kinds of grant applications all the time to make sure that what they're hearing internally from the agencies, what they're looking for, lines up with your application in a way that gives you the leg up. So if you want our folks to take a look at that before you submit, just let us know.
I'll give it a call. Thanks, appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you, Senator. As you can see, we have a great team in Santa Fe County that I am proud of, and thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. We do not have Mark Hayden. I don't see his face. And so rather than going to procurement, Ken, why don't you speak about some of the initiatives statewide around
Sure.
electrification?
What General Services Department has done, I mean, since COVID hit, it's probably a Rip Van Winkle effect. So if somebody hasn't been to Santa Fe lately, it comes up in the rail runner. If they get off at the South Capitol, they'll be surrounded by solar panels that are just huge on both sides of the tracks, starting with the Transportation Department over towards the South Capitol complex in front of where I used to work at MNerd. And they're getting at least 50% of their electricity covered with these installations, literally covered, because a lot of parking is there too. Or near the Capitol itself, there's fast charging stations they put in. I think the city, did the city do that, or it was I think the state did that. And that if you go for a quick lobbying for 30 minutes, you come out and your car is going to be full up with electrons. So we really appreciate the state doing their part, and he'll do more. I brought up with Mark once that these leaf blowers that they are used for an hour use as much energy as somebody driving a car for 1,000 miles. So there's lots of different things that are in the portfolio of electrification that begun not just in cars and buildings, but for equipment as well. And I think
Ken, I just cut a cord of firewood last weekend, and I used my electric chainsaw, so you would have been
good
proud.
for you. And you said you got a second heat pump too, right?
A second heat pump water heater. So I haven't replaced my furnace yet. The last two items on the house electrification list are the gas stove that they actually, I think they bought the stove to try and sell the house. So it's kind of brand new. So we're looking at induction for that. And then the big heat pump replacement for the HVAC system. But all the hot water heater as of today is electric air source heat pump.
Great. Look in the marketplace coming out of Japan soon will be heat pumps that can do water and heating of air and cooling of air, all three.
Oh,
of
wow.
those.
I know one of the changes we're expecting in the first couple quarters of this year is actually 120 volt air source heat pump water heaters that will use a battery to sort of supplement the amperage load when it first starts up. And so you won't have to wire in a new service to swap out if you don't have 240, you'll be able to actually just drop in a heat pump water heater without big electrical changes. So that should make things a lot easier in a lot of these, a lot of these residential applications in particular.
Great.
Yeah, excellent. Senator, I have a question for you in terms of the, if you looked in your crystal ball and could see if that sustainability accelerator piece, if indeed Build Back Better has chunks that are pursued as opposed to the whole ticket, what do you see as the likelihood of funding for a green bank that would lower the energy burden for LMI households?
Yeah, I think that the energy and climate provisions writ large are they're actually the place where we have the most consensus. And so if we can get a vehicle together, that is likely to be part of it.
Great, good answer. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that and the rebates, between those two things, we could really make a lot of change in a short amount of time.
Great, thank you. Ken, do you want to open the floor to other?
Sure. There's other folks that haven't had a chance to say anything or ask any questions besides Anna. Anybody else have any thoughts to share?
So, hi everyone. This is Saif Ismail. I'm the Energy and Sustainability Manager for the City of Albuquerque. I just like to thank everyone in this group and the great efforts for the state. I came from overseas. I came from Iraq, from Baghdad to Albuquerque. So this is home. Like, it's been 12 years, and I'm an engineer, and I'm proud working as a part of a team for the City of Albuquerque and for this great state I've been living in so far with my kids and family. So I just like to share one thing, that the City of Albuquerque took the lead of the grid modernization that we got awarded from the state, from MNERD. So what happened is I'm creating the brain, I called it the brain, which we're going to consolidate all the smart systems for all the departments into one data source, into one dashboard that we can manage and control all our buildings. This is the first time for the city and for the state. So this project is supposed to be completed by June 22nd, and I'm more than happy to invite everyone for an open house to manage and monitor. There's going to be a command center. It's going to be monitoring those smart buildings. We're talking streetlights, EV charging stations. We're talking about utilities, Smart City Connect. This is a big initiative for the City of Albuquerque towards 100% renewable and net zero. And also one of the big projects I'm working on right now on how the City of Albuquerque can be a power generator by installing battery storages behind meter. And there's a lot of things, I don't want to take anyone's time, but we are heading into a very, very big goals and initiatives, and all the support is appreciated. I have developed a couple of scope of work and initiatives on battery storages, like Kelsey, my colleague, mentioned regarding the energy service performance contract. We have 2 million square feet, 50 buildings. We're looking into auditing in-house 60 more buildings. Our goal is to be 100%, renewable by 2025. It's a very aggressive goal from the administration, and I'm doing my best to support it. So I'm really happy to invite everyone in this group for an open house for the brain, and see how the City of Albuquerque is going to be the leader on this initiative and help other cities from state of New Mexico. If they need any advices, any work help, I'm more than happy to to support and work with every single team to make sure their cities are really efficient and having the same goals.
That's great. That's exciting that you'll be able to see that all in one place. I think that's probably the direction we should all be heading in. I'm wondering if maybe it makes sense to try and put together some sort of a guide that pulls together the different tools that all these different communities, what you're describing, so that somebody who is not as far along as, say, the City of Albuquerque, for example, can have something where they can look and say, well, that tool and that tool, those are no-brainers. We should start there and then build our program from there. And that might be a place where we could maybe help consolidate some of the most useful tools.
Absolutely.
Because it seems like the more we can layer these different tools on top of each other, the further along and the faster communities can make that progress.
Yes, sir.
Senator, your staff is giving us the virtual hook that you have to make the next appointment. I really appreciate taking your time out today. This is very useful, and we will definitely follow up with you in the future.
Fantastic. Good to see you, Ken. Good to see you all.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for your leadership. And if we can be helpful, just please don't hesitate to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.